Hi guys, and welcome back to Sheddy's Kitchen. I'm Sheddy. Today we're looking at making a chicken biryani. This is one of Mum's classic recipes. You can normally eat this with yogurt. If you want to add a bit of cucumbers and tomatoes on the top, we tend to do that. Or you can mix the yogurt with a bit of mint, add that to the top as well. It's an absolutely beautiful dish. So are you ready? Let's get cooking. What you're going to need for this recipe is 1 kilogram of, we're using Tilda basmati rice. Just to let you know beforehand, what you need to do with that rice is it does need to be pre-boiled, half boiled. So when you get that rice, you need to pop it into a bowl first, wash it thoroughly, rub it between your hands when you do like that. So rub it between your hands, you'll see the water become quite white in colour because it's releasing all the residue on the rice. Just pour that water away, fill it with water again. Give them a good scrubbing between your hands with the rice again until you only need to do that about twice, and that's absolutely fine. What you then do with that rice is pop that into some water. Now the water has to go in the pan, needs to go much above the rice level because we're going to be needing that water to pour out the way later on. So when you do put it on boil, make sure the amount of water you're using is much higher than the rice level in the pan. Let it half boil, and the way you would check that is just press your fingers against it. It'll be still slightly hard when you break it. Once you've completed that process and that's boiled, because you should be doing that on the side out the way prior to making the next part of the dish. You then need to leave the rice in the sieve just to drain on the side. $400 mils of sunflower oil, 2 medium-sized onions, and we're going to be using onions twice in this recipe. So the first time we're going to use these are for browning. So 2 medium-sized onions, and in these onions we have cut them into, you can see, just slices like this. 350 grams of chopped onions. You see they're not sliced, we've just chopped them down. 3 teaspoons of red chili powder, 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, that's known as haldi, 3 teaspoons of cooking salt, Next, what you're going to need is 3 teaspoons of ginger paste and 3 teaspoons of garlic paste. What we've done is we've not pasted them, we've just made them freshly at home, but you can get this as a paste if it's more convenient for you. We tend to go for fresh ingredients and just crush them down ourselves, but we've mixed the garlic and the ginger together in that bowl. But you need 3 teaspoons of the ginger paste and 3 teaspoons of the garlic, or if you want to freshly make it at home, you can do. 350 grams of chopped tomatoes. Don't need exactly 350 grams, we've used 5 medium-sized tomatoes and it equated to 350 grams. Two teaspoons of dry coriander powder. 6 green chilies, and with the green chilies we've sliced them lengthways, and then the lengths we've chopped into halves, as you can see over here. One medium-sized chicken which we've chopped into pieces over here. That approximately was 1.2 kilograms. Doesn't matter if you're either way on the medium side. We just ask for a medium sized chicken at the butcher's, but this is approximately 1.2 kilograms, so you have an indication of what weight we've used. One sliced lemon. So what we've done is we've sliced them into circles first, and then we've just cut these circles into semicircles. As you can see, it doesn't make a difference of how you do it, but that's how we normally do it. The next thing we've used here is 2 different colour peppers. We've gone half and half, so we've gone for half a yellow pepper and half a red pepper. In this case, it's up to you which colour you use. That's the colour you're going to get in the biryani at the end. If you want to add more peppers, you can do, but we go for half and half. You'll need 50 grams of a biryani mix, which I'll just show you over here. We use the brand called Laziza. That's quite a big brand. It's whatever you can get at your South Asian shops, really. You'll see a whole range. What you do need to stick for is the biryani. They do different types. They do like a pilau biryani as well, but the pieces in pilau biryani we tend not to use. We tend to stick with just the biryani one. So go for any one you want, but it's 50 grams that you require. Five teaspoons of plain yogurt. And again, this one that we use tends to be slightly sour. That's purely preference, but I think sour goes quite well with the biryani in this example. Two teaspoons of cumin powder, which is your jeera. $25 grams of chopped coriander. That's fresh chopped coriander. You'll need, I've got three mint sprigs there, but you'll need 2 mint sprigs, and it's just the leaves that you require on the mint sprigs. And lastly, you'll need approximately 1.5 grams of saffron. We're going to put that saffron into a tiny bit of water just to dissolve it, and we'll need that at the end, so 1.5 grams is sufficient. So you want to start off with a very high heat for this. The first bit we're doing is we want to brown some of our sliced onions. So I've got that on a nice high heat now, and into that we're going to pop our oil. What you need to make sure in this case, and it's different from some of the other videos, well, most of the other videos I've actually done, is we want the oil to be very hot, because when we put the sliced onions in, they will brown and get quite crispy, and we need that crispiness because we'll be taking them out once they're crispy for a later time. So let's just get this oil very hot before we put them onions in. So the oil is very, very hot now. I've just dropped an onion into there and it's browned up very, very quickly. So I'm going to put my sliced onions into there now. And I'm going to let them brown. We want to get them quite brown, quite a nice dark brown, so they almost look like they've been caramelized on the outside. So we'll come back to you shortly when they're brown to show you, before we remove them out of the oil. You can see these onions have sufficiently gone brown now. This is what the kind of colour you're looking at. I'm going to start sieving these out straight away so they don't burn, so I need to remove these and pop them into a separate plate, which I'll be using later on. There we go. What I'm going to add to the oil now is the chopped onions, the diced onions that we had from before, and we're going to let them brown, but we're not going to let them brown as much. They're going to slightly brown. So when I pop these in and give them a mix into the same oil, we'll come back to these when these are browned very slightly to give you an indication to where you should be at. So give them a mix, carefully give them a mix in there, nice mix, and we'll come back to you now when these are browned very, very slightly. So the onions are browned very, very slightly. To this, I'm going to add the next few ingredients. I've just got a glass of water handy. I always do that just in case once you've added these herbs and spices in directly, that the pan, it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan, so you can always add a dash of water. At the moment, there's no fear of that because we've used quite a lot of oil. So I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of the red chili powder into there. 1 teaspoon of the turmeric powder, the haldi, and to that I'll also add the cooking salt, and that's 3 teaspoons of the cooking salt. We'll give that a bit of a mix for a bit before we do anything else. Like I said, just keep that glass of water handy, just in case. Give that a nice mix. Goes a lovely orangey colour over there. This is very, very common in a lot of the cooking that we do, that you get to this colour with the main ingredients going in. I would advise, if you have an extractor fan or anything like that, get that going, purely for the fact that the concentrated smells are get stuck to your clothes. I'll just add a dash of water to that. It'll help with the softening of the onions. It's not sticking at all, I'm not worried about that. I've added a tiny bit of water just so that the onions can soften up a bit in the oil. I'm just going to next add the mix of the ginger paste and the garlic paste that we're using here. We've crushed this down, but I've got a mix. You'd need 3 teaspoons of the ginger and 3 teaspoons of the garlic. I'm adding 6 in total because it's a mixture. So we'll pop them into there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 for good measure, that's 6. There you go. Give that a nice little mix. Biryani is one of them dishes that a lot of Pakistanis, Bangladeshi, Indian people will often eat. Goes really well with yogurt. Normally you can have it with yogurt. Can't say it's one of my most favourites, but certainly I'd be a small minority in that case. It's a bit chilly for me. I find when you have anything in the form of a boiled rice going in, it can absorb the chilies quite a lot, and I have a tendency to struggle with that. But it is, you'll find me in restaurants. Most of the friends I speak to are often asking me for a biryani recipe, so this one will be a good one for them to follow. This isn't typical of the Indian restaurant one that you get, we will do one in the future which will be more an a British Indian restaurant guided one. This is one that this is my mum's own recipe that she makes at home. So the next thing I'm going to add to this now is the chopped tomatoes, so we'll pop them in. They will reintroduce a fair bit of water into this mixture, so give that a bit of a mix. Let the tomatoes start to soften up in there. See, straight away you can see the water being added from the tomatoes in there. Give that a lovely mix. Let that heat up a bit. What we're just trying to do is reduce down the water from the tomatoes. The tomatoes have released all that water into there. Let's just reduce that down a tiny bit before we decide to move on to the next part. Okay, the next thing we're going to add into this now is going to be our coriander powder. So we had 2 teaspoons of dry coriander powder going into there. Again, we'll give that a little mix. Right, so next we're going to add to this is the green chilies. Just as a reminder while I'm doing this is just be aware that your rice should be on the side now, obviously covered well above the rice level in water. You don't want that water level going below the rice, and you should be boiling that. That should be prepping on the side as we suggested in the ingredients at the start. I'm going to put the green chilies into there now, give this a quick mix, but I'm going to add the chicken next to this, and it will take some time for the chicken to cook in there. So I'll pop the chicken in now, gently, carefully into there now. There we go. And with the chicken added there now, that's going to take a tiny bit of time to cook. So I'm going to time how long it takes our dish for that to get us to the right point in this. So we're going to leave you a moment and then come back to this when this is ready, but I will give you the length of time it's taken for us to get to this stage and how the chicken might actually look. So it's been 15 minutes now, so just make sure in between that time you were mixing it as and when you were leaving that chicken to start to cook through. So 15 minutes later, what we're going to add next to that are the slices of lemon, which we'll pop into there now. And we'll give that a quick mix. And then next, I'm going to add the peppers. Again, give that a nice mix in there, really cover, make sure it's a nice uniform mix in there. To that we're going to add 5 teaspoons of our plain yogurt. Right, there you go. And this you want to make sure you mix thoroughly, really get that yogurt mixed in there into the recipe. That's lovely mixed. There we go, mixed in nicely. And to this I'm going to add the biryani powder now, the 50 grams of that we were using the mix in there, so I'll pop that into there now. So that's one packet normally equates to 50 grams. If it's not in 50 gram packet, you need 50 grams of that in there. Make sure it's all in there. There we go. Give that a nice mix again. And again, keep making sure you stir this. We're gonna leave this to cook for a bit longer now, so we'll come back to you when this is ready. I will give you timings again of when I've come back to this. I would advise you at this point as well, make sure if you have had your rice on the boil, that your rice is just about half cooked, and make sure you pour out the excess water into a sieve and let the rice drain out. Don't let it go further than that, because if the rice gets mushy and breaks easier, it won't work well in the biryani. So I've just mixed in masala now, the mixture into there. I'm gonna keep coming back to this, keep giving it a mix, but we'll come back to you and I'll let you know how long it's been. So it's been 6 minutes now, and we've got the final few ingredients to add to this this part of the pan. To this we're going to add our 2 teaspoons of your dry cumin powder. 2 teaspoons go in there. Our fresh coriander. And our mint leaves that we've just chopped down, so that's from mint leaves from 2 sprigs of mint. So I'll pop that into there. At this point I'm going to drop to a lower heat, because we are going to do a pan swap, and there's a purpose for this pan swap. So we're going to just drop the heat down, go to a much lower heat. Just check that. And there we go. Give this a nice lovely mix. Get all them ingredients mixing nicely in there. And what we're going to do with this pan now is I'm going to take it off the heat now, that's ready, and I'm going to do a pan swap. So we're going to come back to you in a moment when we've done the pan swap. So I've just turned off the our cooker at the moment, because I want to show you what you need to do next, and I don't want to overcook the stuff I put in there. So I've transferred half of the curry that we'd originally made, only half of it as a bottom layer. We're going to create what's essentially like a sandwich. So we've got the half of the curry in there. I've got the other half which I'm going to add in a moment. And the rice that's boiled, be careful with this. Don't use your hands too much when transferring this, because you'll break the rice. So we're just using a just flat spoon in this sense to cover the top and start creating a layer on top of the chicken that we've put in there. I'm just going to do that there, pop that in. Because biryani, when you do it, you'll notice when we get to the end and we are actually serving this, you have the mixtures of the whites and then the mixtures of the yellow in there. Certainly when we won't be doing any more mixing now, because when we do get to the end and we transfer this, you'll get a mixture of the lot anyway when you're putting a spoon in there and just plating the dish. I've pretty much covered all of that now. That should be enough. And now from there, we're going to add to that the rest of the curry. So I'm just going to transfer some in with a spoon first, and then I will pour the rest in. I'll just tilt the pan over directly. So I'm just going to get the chicken in there. What I'll do is I'll just lift the pan, it'll just be easier to do that. It might be out of shot here. I'll just mix the pan in and I'll transfer it like that. Make sure you're distributing it, try to evenly distribute it everywhere. Make sure you've got all of it in there. I'll just get them little bits off. There we go. And again, final layer of rice. We'll use the rest of the rice now. We'll cover that again. Here we go. We've covered that fully. Just getting the rest of that rice out of there now. Should be more than enough. There we go. And to that now, I'm going to add these original onions that we had browned right at the start. The onions right at the start, I'm just going to dot them and put them all along the top. They'll mix into the dish later on when you decide to present this. Put them all along the top. And lastly, we've just mixed the saffron, the 1.5 gram, we've just crushed it down so that it dissolves easier in approximately 2 teaspoons of water. And I'm just going to dot that at different places around the top surface of the rice. And I just dot this around elsewhere. You don't want to be wasting saffron, it's quite an expensive, arguably the most expensive of spices. So there we go, that's added. We're going to put the heat back on now, because if you remember I did pop it off just to show you what I was doing. So I'm going to put that back on heat, but it needs to be a low heat when you actually do this. So make sure you've got this on a low heat. I'll just drop in that to a nice low heat. Now what we're going to do is pop the lid of the pan on, and we're going to leave that now for approximately 10 minutes. So we've popped that onto a low heat now. You don't need to do any mixing whatsoever. Make sure you leave the lid on there, and we'll leave that now for approximately 10 minutes, then we're done. I'm absolutely loving the colours that this dish brings. So it's time to get the seal of approval, hopefully from my parents. Seal of approval met. For many more of my recipes, just make sure you subscribe to my channel, click that notification bell, and I will see you soon.